In a world often clouded by hierarchy and ceremony, true compassion can sometimes be revealed in the simplest acts. On an ordinary day outside the gates of the Vatican, a moment unfolds that will touch the hearts of many. A revered spiritual leader, known for his wisdom and dedication, encounters a homeless man whose quiet dignity and resilience stir something deep within him. What begins as a small act of kindness quickly transforms into an emotional journey of humility, empathy, and human connection. This story explores how unexpected encounters can open our eyes to the profound truth that beneath every surface lies a story worth listening to, and perhaps a lesson everyone needs to hear. Pope Leo XIV was known among his followers for his dedication to prayer, reflection, and the quiet service of others. On this particular day, he felt an even stronger pull to step outside the familiar surroundings of the Vatican. The usual routines and formal obligations seemed to fade into the background as he saw a rare moment of genuine solitude, a brief escape from the weight of his responsibilities. Dressed in simple clothing beneath his papal robes, he wandered through the narrow, ancient streets of Rome, feeling the cobblestones beneath his feet, and listening to the distant sounds of city life. The hustle and bustle of tourists, vendors and locals flowed around him, but he moved with a quiet purpose, almost as if seeking something beyond the physical. As he walked, the sun cast a gentle glow over the piazza, and for a fleeting moment, he allowed himself to forget the solemn duties of his office. He paused near a small cafe, watching children play and street performers entertain tourists. The serenity of the scene contrasted with the gravity of his role, yet he found comfort in the simplicity of the moment. It was in these pauses, away from the grandeur of the Vatican walls, that he found clarity and renewed purpose. Lost in thought, Pope Leo XIV turned a corner and found himself in a quieter alley, one less travelled by the usual crowds. Here, the vibrancy of the city softened into a more subdued ambience. The scent of fresh bread from a nearby bakery mingled with the coolness of the morning air. As he continued walking, his eyes caught sight of a figure sitting on the ground, someone who appeared separate from the rest of the world bustling around him. It was a man, older and weathered, with clothes that told stories of hardship, worn, faded, yet strangely dignified in his posture. Though the Pope was accustomed to meeting many kinds of people in his daily life, there was something about this man that drew his attention deeply. Was it the quiet resilience in his eyes? The sense that, despite all odds, he was still clinging tightly to hope? Or perhaps it was just the simplicity of the moment, two strangers, in different worlds, unknowingly about to cross paths in a way that would change everything. Without hesitation, Pope Leo XIV decided to approach. His steps were measured but gentle, respectful of the man's space, yet driven by an innate desire to connect. As he drew closer, the man looked up. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, perhaps wondering why someone of such stature was approaching him. But the Pope's presence carried no airs of superiority, only warmth and genuine concern. In that instant, a silent question hung in the air. What stories lay behind those weary but resilient eyes? What pain, hope, or longing might this man carry? And what could one small act of kindness mean in this moment of shared humanity? As the street noise continued around them, the world seemed to pause for a heartbeat. It was the beginning of an encounter that would prove to be far more extraordinary than anyone could have anticipated. The Pope's footsteps slowed as he drew nearer to the humble figure seated on the cold, uneven stones. The man looked up, eyes meeting those of the spiritual leader, and for a moment, an unspoken understanding seemed to pass between them. A fleeting bridge across the vast chasm of social and personal hardship. The air was thick with quiet anticipation, and Leo XIV could feel the weight of countless stories buried beneath that weathered face. The Pope gently crouched down, kneeling to be at eye level, and offered a soft, welcoming smile. His voice was calm and sincere as he asked, "How are you today?" Though the words were simple, the tenderness behind them resonated deeply. The man hesitated for a moment, then responded with a slight nod, a faint smile of acknowledgement, that voice, his reality without words. His eyes flickered with a mixture of gratefulness and vulnerability, a testament to the resilience that had carried him through many hardships. Leo XIV reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of bread, an unassuming gesture, yet one loaded with meaning. He offered it to the man, who hesitated before accepting with a gentle gesture. As the bread passed between them, the Pope watched the man's hands tremble slightly, not from weakness, but from a quiet strength built through endurance. Watching him, Leo saw not just a homeless man, but a person who had endured suffering and yet still held on to a spark of hope. In that moment, the Pope felt an overwhelming wave of compassion. A silence settled between them, no need for words, only presence. The street noises faded into the background, leaving only the quiet exchange of human kindness. The man broke the silence in an unspoken way, perhaps through a subtle gesture or expression, conveying a story of pain, hope, or longing. The Pope responded with empathetic gestures, leaning in slightly, listening with his heart as much as with his ears. As they sat together, the man began to share glimpses of his life, through gestures, expressions, or perhaps a few words that carried significant weight. His face told stories of lost loved ones, of nights spent in despair, but also of moments when hope flickered anew. The Pope saw the deep lines etched on his face, each one a testament to a life of struggle, but also to an unyielding spirit that refused to give up. The exchange was not merely between two individuals, it was an affirmation of the profound human experience, of suffering, resilience, and the unbreakable desire for dignity. Leo XIV listened intently, his heart swelling with empathy. He recognized in this man the universal human condition, each person fighting battles invisible to the outside world, the roughness of the sidewalk beneath them and the cold air around them faded into insignificance compared to the warmth generated by genuine connection. For the briefest of moments, the boundary between the spiritual leader and the forgotten soul dissolved, revealing the shared vulnerability that unites us all. In that quiet, sacred space, the Pope's eyes welled up with a gentle tear, an unspoken prayer of mercy, humility, and love. This was more than a simple encounter. It was a reminder of what truly mattered in life. And in the heart of that street corner, amidst the chaos and silence, two strangers found each other, an act of kindness that would echo far beyond that fleeting moment. As the moment stretched on, the man's gestures became more expressive, revealing depths of emotion that words alone could not convey. His hands, calloused and weathered, moved with an ease born of years of hardship and resilience. Occasionally, he would point or gesture toward the sky, or perhaps to a distant memory lingering behind his eyes. The Pope watched intently, sensing that despite the limitations of language, this exchange was revealing a story far richer and more profound than words could capture. The man's face, often marked with lines of pain and weariness, softened as he showed genuine warmth and gratitude. A faint, tentative smile broke across his face, one born from the simple act of being heard and acknowledged. The Pope could see that this man was sharing his truth without need for verbosity, trusting that his story was safe in the presence of compassionate eyes. It was a story not only of suffering, but also of hope, a quiet testament to the indomitable human spirit. Occasionally, the man reached into his ragged coat pockets and gently produced a small picture or a worn object, perhaps a faded photograph, a token of a loved one, or a memento from better days. He showed it to the Pope with reverence, a silent message of what had once been and what still lingered within him. Seeing this, the Pope felt a surge of empathy and admiration. These objects, though simple, held the weight of memories, the joy, the pain, the regrets, and the love that refused to fade. The man's eyes shone with a mixture of nostalgia and longing, and his gestures seemed to ask the question, "Have you heard enough? Do you understand?" In that silent dialogue, the Pope responded with gentle nods, matching the man's unspoken language of emotion. He leaned in closer, allowing the man to take his time and share as much or as little as he wished. Every gesture, every tear, every subtle movement was a stroke in a silent painting, an intricate portrait of a life marked by hardship, yet illuminated by resilience. In these exchanges, Leo XIV saw not just a person in distress, but a bearer of stories that deserve to be heard, stories that often go unseen by the world, hidden behind societal barriers and prejudiced perceptions. The rich tapestry of this man's life, woven with threads of suffering, love, loss, and hope, unfolded before his eyes. The street, usually bustling with activity, fell silent in the presence of this genuine human connection. Their shared vulnerability created an unspoken bond, an acknowledgement that every person's story matters, regardless of their circumstances. He noticed the subtle flicker of emotion that crossed the man's face, sometimes manifested as a quiver in his voice, other times as a tear that traced a silent path down his weathered cheek. These moments of raw honesty were poignant reminders of the fragility of human life, and the strength that could be found in humility and truth. The Pope understood that amid the hardships, this man's spirit, though battered, still contained a light that refused to be extinguished. It was a light born not from wealth or privilege, but from resilience, faith, and a profound sense of hope that persisted despite all odds. For what felt like hours, the gentle exchange continued, each gesture, each look, each silent moment adding new layers of understanding. The Pope's heart swelled with compassion as he silently visited the depths of this man's soul, recognizing the universal truth that suffering and hope are intertwined in the human experience. In that shared space, words became unnecessary. The language of empathy and human connection transcended verbal communication. And as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the alleyway, The scene etched itself into the memory of both men, an exchange rooted in vulnerability, kindness, and genuine compassion. The story moving between them was a testament to the enduring power of listening, of seeing beyond appearances, and of recognizing the divine spark within each human being. And in that quiet, sacred moment, the simple act of sharing stories in silence became a profound testament to the extraordinary resilience and dignity inherent in every soul. As the conversation unfolded naturally in the cool air of the alleyway, an unspoken intimacy blossomed between the Pope and the man. The initial exchanges of gestures and glances gradually deepened into a profound connection that transcended words. With each passing moment, the layers of formality peeled away, revealing raw, authentic human emotion. An invisible thread tightening between two strangers brought together by circumstance, yet united by shared humanity. The Pope's heart was touched more profoundly than he anticipated. He found himself leaning slightly forward, as if to better absorb the silent stories whispered through the man's eyes and gestures. The man, for his part, seemed to recognize that he was in the presence of someone who genuinely cared, someone who saw beyond the surface of hardship and looked directly into the soul beneath. Their exchange was like an unspoken dance, one dictated not by language, but by the universal language of compassion, empathy, and understanding. In that sacred space, the world's noise, the bustling streets, the chatter of tourists, the hurried footsteps, faded into insignificance. Time itself seemed to slow, as if holding its breath, witness to the two souls connecting amid the chaos. The silence contained its own message, that sometimes the most powerful communication occurs when words are absent, when simply being present is enough. Leo XIV felt a surge of humility flood over him. To him, this encounter was a mirror of life's fragile beauty, a reminder that beneath the veneer of societal status or material possessions lies a shared vulnerability. The man's honest reactions, the way he looked at the Pope with a mixture of longing and gratitude, underscored the deep longing within every human heart, to be seen, heard, and loved without conditions. It was a lesson in humility, a call to recognize the divine spark in every person, regardless of their circumstances. The man's tears welled up again, shimmering in the light filtering through the alley. One fell silently down his weathered cheek, glistening in the moment's quiet intensity. The tear wasn't just a sign of pain or sorrow, it was also an expression of relief, of being truly understood at last. The Pope's own eyes blurred with emotion, moved by the raw honesty and vulnerability laid bare before him. He realized that this tear embodied countless unspoken stories, the stories of loss, resilience, and unyielding hope that many carry silently within. In this exchange, the Pope saw the immense power of genuine human connection, how a simple act of attentive presence could dissolve barriers built by social disparity and prejudice. It was in this silent communion that he felt an awakening, a stirring deep within his soul, that challenged him to model kindness and compassion more boldly. The revelation was as humbling as it was inspiring, that every person, no matter how broken or forgotten, bears an indelible dignity and worth. He softly reached out, placing a gentle hand on the man's shoulder, as if to reaffirm the unbreakable bond that had formed between them. The man looked up, their eyes locking once more, conveying a message far more eloquent than words could ever articulate. An unspoken affirmation that they were seen, accepted, and loved just as they were. In that moment, the Pope's tears suggested a spiritual awakening. They reflected not only his compassion for this individual, but also a renewed understanding of his calling. An understanding that humility, empathy, and authentic connection could transform lives. It was a moment of divine grace, a reminder that greatness is not measured by titles or rituals, but by the capacity to feel deeply and to respond with genuine love. The experience left an indelible mark on both of them, a sacred memory that would linger long after they parted. It was a testament to the extraordinary power of authentic human connection, and a vivid reminder that sometimes it is in our most vulnerable moments that we find the truest reflection of ourselves. In that alleyway, amidst the quietly shared tears and silent gazes, a new understanding was born, one rooted in compassion, humility, and the infinite dignity of every human life. In the midst of this profound connection, a wave of emotion suddenly overtook the Pope. It was as if the weight of years of dedication, humility, and deep compassion suddenly broke through the carefully constructed facade he held in front of the world. The tears that had been threatening to fall now spilled freely, expressing feelings beyond words, an overwhelming mixture of sorrow, empathy, humility, and an aching tenderness that had been long suppressed. The silent tears traced paths down his face, shimmering briefly in the filtered evening light, as if silently speaking the feelings words could never adequately describe. For the Pope, this moment was transformative. It was a visceral release, a catharsis that carried with it the recognition of the profound suffering so many people endured in silence, often unseen and unheard. The tears embodied a deep sorrow for the pain of this man sitting before him, but also a wave of compassion that beckoned him to do more, to truly serve, not just in words or rituals, but in acts rooted in genuine empathy. Around them, the alley seemed to hold its breath, the world momentarily pausing to honour this raw display of vulnerability. Witnesses passing by, if any had been near, might have sensed an almost sacred moment, one that encapsulates the very essence of human connection and divine love. The tears streaming down the Pope's face revealed an honesty no veneer could hide, an unfiltered glimpse into the soul of someone who had come face to face with the reality of suffering, a real, tangible reminder of the brokenness that exists in the world. The man looked on, his own eyes glistening, recognizing the depth of emotion in the Pope. He saw a leader who, somewhere deep inside, was touched beyond the superficial layers of duty and formality. A leader who truly understood the hardship faced by many in this world. It was a connection rooted in shared humanity, stripping away the external differences that often divide us. The silent language of tears indicated empathy, sorrow, and a heartfelt plea for understanding. In that moment, something shifted within the Pope. His tears were not born of weakness, but of profound humility, an acknowledgement that no matter how high one rises in spiritual or worldly terms, true strength lies in vulnerability. The tears were a testament to the recognition that, despite the grandeur of his position, he was still fundamentally human, susceptible to the same pain, hope, and longing as the man sitting before him. He was overwhelmed by a sense of spiritual awakening, a realization that his calling was not solely to lead or judge, but to love and serve unconditionally. Tears became a language of their own, speaking of a desire to heal, to comfort, and to do more than just pray. They were a silent vow that he would carry this moment in his heart, a reminder that compassion must be tangible and active, not just an abstract ideal. As the tears continued to flow, the Pope felt his soul being cleansed, his perspective profoundly altered. The pain embodied in those tears became a prayer in itself, a cry for mercy in a world that often forgets the vulnerable. He recognized in this vulnerable moment a divine grace, a chance to deepen his commitment to serve with humility and empathy. The emotional outpouring drew those around into a deeper awareness of the profound truth. That authentic compassion is born from the well of our shared vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to feel deeply, to open our hearts fully, we become vessels for divine love, capable of touching eternity in moments like these. In the silence that followed, the air seemed to shimmer with a sacred energy, a quiet acknowledgement that such moments remind us what it truly means to be human, to be spiritual, and to be compassionate. The tears served as a powerful reminder that despite the suffering and hardships that stain the world, hope and love persist, sometimes quietly expressed through a simple, honest cry, a testament to our collective resilience and divine grace. After that day, something within the Pope shifted profoundly. The encounter with the homeless man became more than just a fleeting moment of compassion. It transformed into a renewed sense of purpose. The emotional experience lingered long after they parted ways, etched deeply into his heart and mind. The image of that silent dialogue, the tears, and the raw vulnerability remained a constant reminder of what his true mission was: to serve with humility, to listen without judgment, and to treat every human being with dignity and love. Returning to his duties, the Pope found himself carrying this newfound perspective into every interaction, every decision, every sermon. He understood more clearly that leadership was rooted not in power or prestige, but in humility, empathy, and a genuine willingness to walk alongside those who suffered. He began to see beyond the surface, the superficial church rituals, the glitz of ceremonies, and instead focus on the core message of compassion that underpins his calling. The encounter had ignited a passion within him to act more boldly, to reach out beyond the walls of the Vatican and into the streets, into the lives of those often overlooked by society. He inspired his staff and followers to see the divine in every person, regardless of their circumstances. His speeches were infused with a renewed urgency, a call to embrace humility, to serve the marginalized, and to remember that in each person's suffering there lies an opportunity to witness divine love. This profound experience also transformed how he interacted with his own community. He made time to visit poorer neighborhoods, engaging in conversations that were authentic and unfiltered. He listened attentively to stories of hardship, loss, and hope, always remembering the silent exchange with the homeless man that had shaken his core. The memories of tears and vulnerability fueled his efforts to foster programs that truly helped the vulnerable: shelters, soup kitchens, outreach ministries, aimed at providing not just material aid, but emotional and spiritual support. Word of his changed demeanour and renewed focus circulated among the faithful and beyond. Many felt inspired by his humility. Some even saw the encounter as a divine sign, a reminder that true spiritual leadership involves recognising and elevating the dignity of others. For the first time in a long while, the Pope's actions reflected the humility and compassion he had only spoken of before. The story of that day silently became a guiding light, encouraging others to look beyond external appearances and to see the sacred within every individual. He also began to emphasize a message that resonated deeply with many, that love and compassion are the greatest tools in transforming not only individual lives, but entire communities. He urged believers to practice empathy daily, to reach out with kindness in every small act. The encounter had shattered any remaining illusions of religious superiority, replacing them with a simple truth: that humility before others is the highest form of spiritual practice. Throughout the years that followed, the story of that day continued to inspire countless initiatives, fundraisers, community service projects, dialogues aimed at breaking down social barriers. The Pope's own life became an exemplar of that sacred humility, showing that leadership rooted in love could ignite change far beyond what ceremonies or doctrines alone could achieve. Every time he officiated a mass or met with a community, he carried the memory of that silent connection, the moment his heart opened fully to the suffering of another. That single encounter had rekindled within him a divine spark, reminding him that every human life is precious and sacred. His journey of humility and service bore fruit in ways he had never imagined, touching hearts and minds across the world. Stepping into the light of that experience, he understood that true greatness was measured not by titles or recognition, but by the love we extend to those in need. The encounter with the homeless man, silent yet powerful, remained a cornerstone of his spiritual life, a testament to the transformative power of compassion. And with every act of kindness inspired by that day, the world grew a little brighter, a little more human, and a little closer to the divine ideal of unconditional love.